The wind on Everett 7 used to carry the scent of silverbloom trees and warm rain. Now it carried ash. Gray flakes drifted like dead snow over the ruins of what had once been a home. Alara moved through the wreckage with slow, careful steps. Her boots crunched on broken glass and charred metal. Her cloak, once deep green, was streaked with soot and dried blood. Not hers. Not yet. Nyx flew low beside her, wings folded tight against his slender body. The dragon was small for his kind, no bigger than a large dog, but his presence filled the silence like thunder waiting to break. His scales shimmered faintly, shifting from dusk purple to bruised blue as he scanned the ruins. His amber eyes narrowed at every shadow, every creak of collapsing timber. They had been gone only 3 days. 3 days to gather medical supplies from the old orbital relay station. 3 days that changed everything. The Galactic Empire had come without warning. Not with diplomacy, not with demands. Just fire from the sky. Clean sweeps. Surgical strikes. That was how the broadcast described it. Neutralizing unstable human enclaves. But Alara knew the truth. This wasn't surgery. It was slaughter. She stopped near the edge of what used to be the town square. A twisted statue of a woman holding a child stood half-melted in the center. Beyond it, the nursery lay in ruins. The building was supposed to be shielded. Reinforced walls, underground bunkers, emergency protocols. But none of it mattered when the Empire's orbital lance carved a crater where the East Wing used to be. Alara's breath hitched. She didn't want to go inside. But she had to. Nyx nudged her hand with his snout, a soft rumble in his chest. Not comfort, warning. Something was still alive in there, or something pretending to be. She stepped over fallen beams and melted plastic doors. The air grew thick with the smell of burnt wiring and something else. Something sweet and wrong, like overripe fruit left in the sun too long. Her fingers brushed the hilt of her knife. She didn't draw it. Not yet. Inside, the nursery was a tomb of toys and silence. Tiny chairs overturned. Picture books charred. A single red boot lay near a shattered window. Then she saw them. 3 small shapes beneath a collapsed shelf. Unmoving. Covered in dust. Alara's heart dropped. She rushed forward, dropping to her knees. Her hands trembled as she lifted the heavy slab of composite plating. Her muscles burned, but she didn't stop until the children were free. They looked dead. Pale skin, closed eyes, lips tinged blue. But then movement. A chest rose. Another followed. Then a third. Faint, shallow breaths. Alive. She didn't know their names. They weren't from her watch group. Maybe refugees from Sector 9, where the first strikes hit. She counted them quickly. 2 girls, 1 boy. All under 6. Their clothes were plain, gray, without insignia. No identification chips visible. Strange. Every child on Everett 7 wore a bioband. Alara wrapped them in her cloak one by one. They didn't stir. Didn't cry. Just breathed slow and steady, like they were dreaming something far away. Nyx circled them once, twice, then let out a low, warbling hum. It wasn't his usual sound. Deeper. Older. Like a song his ancestors might have sung in times of war. Alara looked up at the sky. The stars were coming out, cold and distant. Somewhere up there, Imperial ships still prowled. Scanning. Hunting. She had to move. She gathered the children in her arms, lighter than they should be, and hurried back to the edge of town. Her hidden skiff was still buried under camouflage netting near the old irrigation trench. She'd rigged it to run silent, no signal signature, no heat trail. It was their only chance. As she loaded the children into the rear compartment, the youngest, a girl with tangled brown hair, opened her eyes. They were silver, not gray. Not blue, silver like polished moonstone, and they held no fear, no confusion. Only stillness. Deep, endless stillness. Alara froze. The girl stared past her, through her, as if seeing something far beyond the broken skyline. Then she blinked, and her eyes were brown again. Alara swallowed hard. She tucked the girl in beside the others and sealed the hatch. "We're leaving," she whispered. Nyx leapt onto the roof of the skiff and curled around the antenna array, wings shielding the craft like a living cloak. His eyes stayed locked on the sky. The engine hummed to life, quiet as a sigh. The skiff lifted off, drifting low over the blackened fields. Everett 7 shrank behind them, a scar on the planet's surface. Alara didn't look back. Hours passed in silence. The skiff glided through the upper atmosphere, heading for the dead zone, a stretch of space littered with derelict satellites and forgotten mining rigs. No one would search there. Not yet. Inside the cabin, the children slept. No nightmares. No twitches. Just deep, unnatural rest. Alara watched them through the rearview screen. Something about them felt off, not dangerous, not kind, just other. She thought about the nursery, the way the blast patterns didn't match standard Imperial tactics. Too precise, too quiet. Like they weren't just destroying. They were searching, and they left these three alive. Why? Nick shifted on the roof, letting out a soft chirr. He'd picked up a signal. Faint. Encrypted. Human origin. Alara tapped the comm panel. Static hissed, then a voice, cracked, tired, but clear. If anyone's listening, this is Priya. I'm broadcasting from the Ghost Belt. If you've got kids with you, don't trust their silence. They're not just children. They're keys. The transmission cut off. Alara's hands tightened on the controls. Keys to what? She glanced back at the sleeping children. The boy turned in his sleep, whispering a word she couldn't hear. But Nix heard it. His spines rose. His tail curled tight. Alara knew then that the war wasn't over. It had just found its new heart, and it was breathing in the back of her ship. The skiff drifted into the shadow of a broken freighter. Hull number XJ442, no lights. No movement. Safe for now. But safety was an illusion. Somewhere in the dark, the Empire was still watching, and the children, they were waiting. Alara closed her eyes for just a moment, not to sleep. To remember. She thought of her brother, taken in the first purge. She thought of the songs her mother used to sing under the twin moons, songs about shadows that protected the lost. She didn't know it yet, but the shadow had returned not as a man, but as three small breaths in the dark, and she was the only one who could shield them. For now, the stars burned cold above. The silence grew heavier, and Nix kept watch, eyes glowing faintly in the night. End of Part I. Weeks bled into one another aboard the derelict freighter, XJ442. Time lost meaning in the quiet hum of failing life support and the slow drip of condensation from the ceiling vents. Alara had patched the worst of the damage with scavenged parts and stubborn will. The ship floated in the Ghost Belt, a graveyard of old mining vessels, broken satellites, and forgotten cargo haulers orbiting a dead star. No patrols came here. No scanners lingered long. It was perfect for hiding, but hiding was becoming harder. The children, Lena, Maya, and Coral, slept more than they woke. When they did open their eyes, they rarely spoke. They moved like shadows, bare feet silent on the metal grates, fingers brushing walls as if reading stories written in rust. They shared food without words. They flinched at the same moments, even when on opposite ends of the ship. Once Alara saw them standing in a circle in the mess hall, hands clasped, eyes closed, breathing in perfect rhythm. When she entered, they broke apart instantly, faces blank, as if nothing had happened. Nix watched them more than he watched the stars. The dragon spent his days coiled near the airlock or perched atop the comms array on the hull. His scales darkened to near black when he sensed something off, usually right before the children entered a trance-like sleep. During those times, the ship's lights flickered. The gravity stabilizers stuttered. Once, the water recycler spat out droplets that floated in midair like tiny glass beads before vanishing. Alara kept notes in a worn journal. Not just observations, fears. They are not normal. They hear things I cannot. Nix reacts to them like they are old friends or old enemies. They do not dream. They remember. She avoided writing the last part for days. But it was true. Their sleep wasn't rest. It was retrieval. One night, while the children slept in the cargo bay, Alara pulled up the ship's external sensors. A faint energy signature pulsed from their resting place. Low frequency, non-thermal, undetectable by standard Imperial scans. It matched nothing in the database, but it reminded her of something her brother once described. The resonance hum of a neural lattice, the kind used in old human war tech before the Empire banned it. That memory led her to the encrypted files she'd salvaged from Everett 7's central archive. Buried under layers of corrupted code was a single intact log, a message from Priya, the rogue archivist whose voice had crackled through the static weeks ago. Alara played it again. If you've got kids with you, don't trust their silence. They're not just children. They're keys. Keys to what? She spent 3 days trying to trace Priya's last known signal. It bounced through 6 ghost relays before fading near the outer rim of the Vega drift. Risky, but not impossible. If anyone knew what was happening to the children, it was her. She prepped the skiff for a short-range jump, leaving Nix to guard the freighter. The dragon hissed when she tried to go alone, but she pressed her forehead to his snout and whispered, "Watch them. If they change, if they wake up wrong, burn the ship." Nyx understood. The jump took 2 hours. She found Priya not in a station, but inside a hollowed-out comet core, its ice walls lined with data crystals and flickering holoscreens. The woman was small, with tired eyes and grease-streaked hands surrounded by humming machines. She didn't ask who Ilara was. She just said, "You brought them." Ilara nodded. Priya led her to a chamber lined with ancient schematics. "The Empire didn't just kill humans," she said, voice low. "They were hunting something else. Something they couldn't name. They called it the Shadow." "The Shadow," Ilara repeated. It sounded familiar, like a lullaby her mother used to hum. "Not a person," Priya said. "Not anymore. He was a commander. Human, brilliant, ruthless. During the Omega collapse, he vanished. But before he did, he uploaded his consciousness into a quantum lattice, a living archive of memories, tactics, emotions. He scattered copies across fringe colonies, hidden in unborn embryos, hoping one would survive long enough to wake it up." Ilara's blood ran cold. "You think the children—" "I think the Empire didn't burn Everett 7 to destroy humans," Priya said. "They burned it to stop the Shadow from returning. But they were too late, or too clumsy. They killed everyone, except the ones who mattered." Back on the freighter, the children were waiting. Lena stood at the airlock, eyes closed. Maya sat cross-legged on the floor, palms up. Coral leaned against the wall, humming a tune with no words. Nyx stood between them in the cockpit, tail twitching, spines raised. Ilara didn't speak. She just watched. Then Coral opened her eyes. "You met her," she said. "Not a question." Ilara's breath caught. "How did you—" "We saw," Maya whispered, still not moving. "Through her eyes. Through your fear." Lena turned. "The Shadow is not our father," she said. "He is our beginning." Ilara's journal slipped from her hand. That night the children did not sleep. They stood at the viewport, staring into the void. The stars seemed brighter around them, closer. In the morning, the freighter's sensors picked up movement. 3 Imperial scout ships drifting at the edge of the belt. Scanning. Not randomly. Methodically. They were looking for something. Or someone. Ilara powered down all non-essential systems. Nyx wrapped his wings around the children, shielding them from view. The freighter became a ghost among ghosts, but the children weren't afraid. Lena placed her hand on the cold metal wall. A soft silver light spread from her fingertips, crawling through the ship's circuits like roots through soil. The lights dimmed, then glowed a pale blue. The engines, long silent, gave a single, quiet pulse. Outside, the lead scout ship slowed. Its scanner swept over XJ-442 and passed right through. The children had hidden them, not with tech, with will. Priya's words echoed in Ilara's mind. They're not just children, they're keys. And now, they were turning. Ilara watched them from the cockpit doorway. They looked so small, so human, but their stillness was not innocence. It was readiness. Nyx came to her side, his warmth pressed against her leg. He knew what she was thinking. "They're not mine to keep," she whispered. The dragon rumbled softly, not disagreement, acceptance. The scout ships moved on, vanishing into the dark, but Ilara knew the Empire would not stop. Not now, not ever. Somewhere out there the Shadow waited, and the children were listening. The freighter drifted deeper into the belt, wrapped in silence and silver light, and for the first time, Ilara did not feel like their guardian. She felt like their witness. The freighter XJ-442 floated in the silent stretch between star systems. No signals, no traffic, just the hum of old metal and the soft breathing of 3 children who did not dream like other children. Ilara had stopped trying to understand them. Instead, she watched. She listened. She learned they never fought, never cried, never asked for food or water unless she offered. But they always knew when she was afraid. Once during a power surge, the lights died. In the dark, Coral reached out and touched her wrist. Warmth spread through Ilara's skin like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Her fear vanished. Nyx stayed close, always between the children and the door, not to protect her from them, but to protect them from the universe. Then the hunters came. Not scouts this time. Dreadnoughts, massive Imperial warships with hulls black as void and weapons that could crack planets. 3 of them emerged from fold space without warning, surrounding the freighter like wolves around a wounded deer. Alara's hands flew over the controls. She cut all lights, drained the core. Even the air recyclers fell silent. The ship became a cold, dead hulk drifting among ruins. But it was too late. A voice boomed through the comms, calm and final. "Surrender the anomalous signatures. You will not be harmed." Alara didn't answer. She knew the lie behind those words. The Empire did not spare. It erased. She prepared to activate the self-destruct. Better to vanish than let the children fall into their hands. Then Lena stood. She walked to the center of the bridge, bare feet silent on the metal floor. Maya and Coral rose and joined her without a word. They formed a triangle, hands not touching but aligned, eyes closed. Outside, the lead dreadnought powered up its main cannon. Energy gathered in its forward arc, a searing blue glow that lit up the debris field. Alara gripped the edge of the console. This was it. But the children did not flinch. A low hum filled the ship, not from the engines, not from the walls. From them, a sound deeper than sound felt in the bones, in the blood. The air grew thick, heavy, like the moment before lightning strikes. Nix dropped to his belly, pressing his body flat against the deck. His scales darkened to midnight black and his eyes glowed faint amber. Outside, the dreadnought's cannon flickered, then stopped. The blue light faded. On the comms, the calm voice turned sharp. "What is this interference?" No answer came. Then the dreadnought itself began to change. Its hull rippled. Not from damage, from something inside. The metal flowed like liquid, bending inward without explosion, without fire. The ship folded on itself, collapsing into a smooth, silent sphere no larger than a shuttle. The other 2 dreadnoughts fired instantly. Beams of plasma lanced through space, only to curve away at the last second, striking each other in a burst of white fire. The shockwave rocked the freighter, but the children did not move. One of the remaining dreadnoughts turned to flee. It did not get far. Its engines died. Its lights went dark. Then, like the first, it crumpled inward, smooth and quiet, as if space itself had squeezed it into nothing. Silence returned. Alara could not breathe. Nix lifted his head slowly, eyes wide with something like awe. Lena opened her eyes. They were silver again. Not just the color. The substance. Like liquid metal holding galaxies. "They thought we were weak," she said. Her voice was soft, but it echoed as if spoken by many. Maya stepped forward. "They killed our kind to stop a memory." Coral looked at Alara. "But memories do not die. They wait." Alara's knees gave out. She sank to the floor, heart pounding. What are you?" Lena knelt before her. "We are not what they think. We are not just children. We are echoes, pieces of the shadow woven into new life. He gave his form so we could be born. His mind sleeps in our blood." Nix approached slowly. He sniffed the air around them, then lowered his head to the floor in a gesture Alara had never seen before. Not submission. Reverence. The dragon species, the Skyweavers, once served the ancient war seers of the outer reaches, beings who could channel ancestral spirits through living vessels. Alara remembered stories her grandmother told. Stories of dragons and children who spoke with the voices of the dead. Now she understood. The children were not possessed. They were inheritors. And the shadow was not gone. He was returning. Through them. Alara looked at her hands. They shook. Not from fear now. From clarity. "Why did they survive the purge?" she asked. "Because the shadow chose them," Maya said. "Their mothers carried his lattice in their genes." The Empire did not know. They saw only flesh, not the pattern beneath. Coral touched Alara's cheek. Her fingers were warm. "You were meant to find us." "The dragon knew." "He called you?" Alara turned to Nix. The dragon blinked slowly. "Yes." She remembered the day she found him as a hatchling lost in the Silverbloom forest, crying with a broken wing. She had healed him, fed him, named him after the night sky. She thought she had saved him. Now she wondered if he had saved her. The freighter drifted in the aftermath. Debris from the Imperial ships floated like dust. No alarms, no distress calls. The Empire would not send more scouts. They would send something worse. A fleet. A high commander. Maybe even the Emperor's own blade. But the children were no longer hiding. Lena walked to the viewport and placed her palm on the glass. The stars outside seemed to lean closer. They think war is fire and steel, she said. But true war is memory. And we remember everything, Maya joined her. The shadow did not fight to win. He fought to return. Coral stayed near Ilara. And now he will. Ilara stood. Her fear was gone. Replaced by something steady. Something sharp. Then we do not run, she said. Nyx rose. Wings spreading slightly, a low growl building in his chest, not of anger, but of promise. The children turned to her, eyes glowing silver in the dim light. For the first time, they smiled, not with joy, with purpose. The freighter's systems flickered back to life, not by Ilara's hand, but by theirs. Screens lit up with star charts she did not recognize. Coordinates appeared, Vera 9, a shattered moon, a place marked forbidden in imperial logs. The temple hive, Maya whispered. Where the lattice was born, Lena added. Where we become whole, Coral finished. Ilara nodded. She set the course as the engines hummed to life. She looked at the children, not as charges, not as mysteries, but as what they truly were, the next step in humanity's story, and the beginning of the Empire's end. Nyx curled around the console, watching the stars ahead. The void was no longer empty. It was waiting. The shattered moon of Vera 9 hung in space like a broken tooth. Its surface was cracked and gray, scarred by ancient battles and forgotten quarries. No life had walked there in centuries, not since the temple hive fell. Ilara guided the freighter through the debris field, skimming low over canyons filled with rusted war machines and skeletal ruins. The children sat together in the cockpit, silent, eyes fixed on the moon below. They had not spoken since leaving the Ghost Belt, but they did not need to. Their presence hummed in the air like a tuning fork struck in the dark. Nyx perched on the console, scales shimmering with unusual patterns, swirls of gold and deep violet that pulsed in time with the children's breathing. He had not slept in days. Not really. His eyes stayed open, watching, waiting. They landed in a wide crater near the moon's equator. The ground was smooth there, unnaturally so, as if melted and cooled long ago. As the ramp lowered, a warm wind rose from below, carrying the scent of ozone and old stone. The children stepped out first. Lena led, bare feet touching the dust. The moment her skin met the surface, the ground trembled, not violently, gently, like a sleeping beast stirring. Maya and Coral followed, hands brushing the air as if parting an invisible curtain. Ilara grabbed her pack and her knife. Nyx leapt down beside her, tail curling once around her leg before he moved ahead, scanning the path. The entrance to the temple hive was hidden beneath a slab of black rock, but as the children approached, the stone split open with a sigh, revealing a stairway spiraling down into glowing blue darkness. No lights were needed. The walls pulsed with soft light, veins of crystal running through the stone like living nerves. The air grew warmer, thicker, humming with a sound just below hearing. They walked for what felt like hours, though the ship's clock said only minutes had passed, time bent here, stretched thin around something ancient. At the heart of the hive they found the chamber, a vast circular room with a domed ceiling covered in shifting glyphs. In the center stood a pedestal made of fused bone and metal. On it rested a single object, a sphere of swirling silver mist held in place by chains of dark alloy. The children stopped. Lena stepped forward alone. As she neared the sphere, the mist slowed, then stilled. A voice spoke, not from the sphere but from the walls, the floor, the air itself. You have returned. Lena did not flinch. We are not him. We carry him. Close enough, the voice said. The lattice recognizes its own. Ilara watched from the doorway, heart pounding. She wanted to step closer, but Nyx held her back with a low growl. This was not for her. Not yet. Mia and Coral joined Lena at the pedestal. Together they placed their hands on the sphere. Light exploded, not blinding, but deep, filling the chamber with images. Ilara saw them. Flashes of a man in a black coat standing on a burning planet. Children in cryopods scattered across colony ships. A war room filled with human faces, all making one choice. Sacrifice. A final transmission sent into the void. Let them be born free. The man was the shadow, not a myth, not a ghost. A father who loved his species enough to become its seed. The images faded. The children stood taller now. Their eyes glowed steady silver. Their skin shimmered faintly as if lit from within. The voice spoke again. The Empire erased your history, but memory cannot be killed, only buried. Now you remember, now you choose. Lena turned to Alara. We know what we must do. Maya looked at Nyx. The dragon will guide us. Coral walked to Alara and took her hand. You are not alone. Alara's throat tightened. What happens now? Now we become the bridge, Lena said. As if in response, the temple hive shuddered. The walls began to shift, crystals sliding into new positions, metal groaning as it reshaped itself. The chamber walls folded inward, then upward, forming arches and spires that grew like living bone. Outside, the freighter groaned as the ground rose beneath it. Metal fused with stone, circuits merged with crystal. The ship was changing, becoming something new, something alive. Nyx let out a long, resonant cry, a sound Alara had never heard before. It was not fear. It was recognition. His species had served the Warseers. Now he served their return. The children stepped back from the pedestal. The silver sphere dissolved into mist, then flowed into their bodies through their skin. They did not scream. They sighed as if coming home. Alara watched as their forms blurred for a moment. 3 figures, then 1, then 3 again. Their voices overlapped when they spoke. The shadow is not one. He is many. We are his will. We are his hope. We are his war. The temple hive finished its transformation. Where the freighter once sat, a new vessel rose. Sleek, organic, armored in dragon-scale plates that gleamed with inner fire. Its hull pulsed with light, breathing like a living thing. Alara knew then that they would not return to hiding. The war was coming to them, and they would meet it not with weapons, but with truth. Nyx leapt onto the new ship's spine and roared, a sound that echoed through the moon's core. The children boarded calm, certain. Alara followed, heart steady. As the ship lifted from Vera 9, the temple hive collapsed behind them, sinking into the moon like a memory returning to sleep. Ahead, the stars burned, and for the first time, they did not look cold. They looked like eyes, watching, waiting, ready. The fortress world of Solus Prime hung in the galactic core like a crown of iron and fire. Its surface bristled with orbital guns, shield generators, and watchtowers taller than mountains. It was the heart of the Empire, the place where laws were written in blood and dissent was erased before it could speak. Today, the High Command gathered in the Obsidian Spire to celebrate. Humanity was gone. The last colony burned, the final records purged. The Emperor himself had declared the species extinct, a threat neutralized, a flaw corrected. In the Grand Hall, commanders toasted with wine made from conquered worlds. Holograms showed the ruins of Everett 7, Vera 9, and a dozen other human outposts, smoldering, silent, empty. They did not see the ship coming. It did not roar through fold space like a war vessel. It simply appeared, not in orbit, not at the edge of the system, right above the spire as if it had always been there. No alarms sounded, no weapons locked on. The Imperial fleet froze. Aboard the living ship, a sleek, breathing craft woven from bone, scale, and silver light, Alara stood at the bridge. Her hands rested on the console, but she did not control it. The ship moved with the children's thoughts. It breathed with Nyx's rhythm. Lena, Maya, and Coral sat in a circle on the floor, eyes closed, hands resting on their knees. Their skin glowed softly. Their hair floated as if underwater. Nyx lay coiled around them, wings spread like a shield, eyes fixed on the fortress below. Alara watched the view screen. She saw the panic in the Imperial Command Center. Officers shouting, screens flashing red, but no orders coming. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. The children opened their eyes. All silver, all the same. They rose together. The ship pulsed, and the Empire began to unravel. Not with explosions, not with fire. With memory, on the bridge of the lead dreadnought, Captain Orlan clutched his head as images flooded his mind. Faces of human children he had ordered executed. Their laughter, their fear, their last breaths. He fell to his knees sobbing, whispering names he never knew he remembered. In the Obsidian Spire, a general stared at his hands. They were no longer gloved in Imperial black. They were his hands as a boy, holding his sister's hand before the Empire took her for re-education. He screamed and tore off his insignia. Ship after ship went dark, not from damage, but from choice. Crews turned on their commanders. Soldiers laid down weapons. Engineers rerouted power to life support instead of weapons. The fortress itself began to change. Carvings appeared on the walls. Human faces, human words, human songs. The stone remembered what the Empire had tried to forget. At the center of it all, the Emperor stood alone in his throne room. The doors were sealed. The guards were gone. The air smelled of rain and earth, scents he had not known since childhood. Before the crown was forced onto his head, a voice filled the room, not loud, not angry, just present. "You killed our children." The Emperor turned. 3 figures stood in the doorway, small, barefoot, glowing. "You are not real," he whispered. "We are what you made us," Maya said. "You called us unstable," Lena added. "But we are stable in truth," Coral finished. The Emperor drew his ceremonial blade. "I will erase you again." He lunged, but his hand stopped midair. His mind flooded with visions, not of conquest, but of loss. His mother's face. His brother's laugh. The first time he questioned an order and was beaten for it. The Empire had taken everything human from him, and now humanity had returned to give it back. The blade fell. He sank to his knees. "You do not need to rule to be worthy," the children said together. Outside, the fleet drifted, silent. The guns cooled, the shields dropped, and the stars watched. Alara stepped onto the surface of Solace Prime alone. Nyx flew above her, casting a long shadow over the broken fortress. The children remained aboard the ship, not because they were afraid, but because their work was done. The Empire had not been defeated. It had been reminded. In the days that followed, messages spread across the galaxy, not from broadcasts but from person to person. Stories of 3 children who brought back what was lost, of a dragon who remembered the old ways, of a woman who chose to protect instead of flee. New settlements rose on old ruins, human and non-human together. Not as subjects, as neighbors. Alara did not become a leader. She became a witness just as she had always been, but now she carried hope instead of grief. One evening, she stood on the ship's observation deck, watching a new colony bloom on Everett 7. Silver bloom trees were already sprouting in the ash. Nyx rested beside her, warm and steady. The children sat nearby, playing a quiet game with stones that floated in midair. Lena looked up. "Will you stay with us?" Alara smiled. "As long as you need me." Maya tilted her head. "We will not need you forever," Coral added softly. "But we will always remember you." Alara knew it was true. They were not hers to keep. They were humanity's future. And the shadow was no longer a ghost. He was a promise. Kept. Around them, the galaxy began to heal, not with war, but with memory. And the stars burned brighter than ever before.